Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We broadcast 2 hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central. John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. And if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, if you'd like to take us with you as you travel, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. And there's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPREPARES.com. Kurt Wilson's with us, the Armchair Survivalist website, armchairsurvivalist.com. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, what's happening, Vince?
Thanks for going to work early today to be on the air with us for 2 hours. Kurt, you are a survivalist, a preparedness-minded person. You have been for a long time. And although you and I have not personally met, we have so many things in common, and we became very, very fast friends on the telephone quite a while ago. And I'm so glad you're with us. You know, one of the things that I think we should talk about is a strategy for finding the right price. So, for example, I don't buy many things that are new. Of course, I buy food that's new, and I buy automobile parts.
Wait. How do you buy used food?
That's why I said.
Well, I buy used food sometimes, and I use it as fertilizer.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's true. Used chicken food, maybe, or used turkey food, or used hay, or But finding the right price when you buy something, and you know what catches my eye a lot of times, things that people want to get rid of are things that I think I need. Let me give you an example. I was traveling with our son, and there was a garage sale, a lot of things in the driveway, and I stopped, and this man was selling cast iron frying pans.
Oh,
they were pretty. Yeah, they were pretty junky looking. I mean, they were pretty crusty. And I thought, well, they wouldn't be crusty if I had them, and I know how to fix this. And so they were marked $5 each, and he had 4 of them, and he had some other things that I wanted to get. And the price was clearly marked. And so I said, I think I'd like to buy these. And he nodded, that's okay. And I said, and this too, and this, and this, and this, and this. So I had a bunch of things. And then I said to him, well, what is the price for all of these? And he just assumed that he was going to take some money off the total price. I didn't say, I'm not going to pay this price. I just said, what is the price for all of these combined? And he gave me a lower price, and I was satisfied with that. I mean, $5 was the asking price for a frying pan, a cast iron. And so that's how I did it. Is there a better way?
Well, it all depends. When you're in the process of dickering, okay, then it is a millennium-old tradition, dickering. No matter where you go in the world, you go into not in America, not into Macy's or Sears or something, but when you go into pawn shops or secondhand shops or some of the older stores out in the boonies, and they have a price on something, and you go, you grab that thing, and you go, that's not exactly what I want to pay. How about instead of $40, I give you, I don't know, $28. And the guy will go, well, I can. How about let's make it 30 even? So it all depends. It depends on the thing that you're buying. To give you an example, I buy stuff that I know someday I'm going to use. They call us pack rats, but I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna like this. So, excuse me. This guy had 4 brand new doorbell sets. That's the button, the doorbell itself, and the little transformer. And 4 of them, right? And he wanted $5 for the whole box. I didn't even waste my time because each one of those things is $30 at Home Depot. Mm-hmm. So I bought that, and my wife goes, "What the hell do you have 4 doorbell sets for?" I said, "Well, I listen, if I don't use them, I'll sell them at a yard sale later on." 6 weeks later, my doorbell went out. Guess what? I had one. Hooked it up. There we go. Mm-hmm. So, and it depends on the item, whether you want to dicker or whether, like a guy's got a 10-22 Ruger rifle at a yard sale, and things in mint condition. And he says, "Yeah, well, I don't want any more guns in the house. I'm a Democrat now." So he's obviously an idiot. So he says, "I'll take $100." I go, "No questions. I'll give it to you." Right. But if some guy's got some like cast iron, people don't grasp the concept that you can clean it. Mm-hmm. So when they abuse cast iron over the years and it gets gristly and cruddy and carboned up, they think, well, it's garbage. It's garbage. Now, remember the saying, one man's garbage is another man's gold. Mm-hmm. So, and I've done this so many times, it's almost embarrassing, but not really. This guy had 6 Wagner cast iron pans, mm-hmm. starting with a little 5-inch one, which is perfect for making your own Egg McMuffin, all the way up to a 17-inch. And they had, I'm not kidding you, I wouldn't touch them with my bare hands. That's how bad they were. Right. We had to put them in bags. And for all 5 of them, I gave him a $20 bill. And he was happy to get rid of them. And you know what I did? I took them home, stuck them in my electric oven, and turned it on to automatic clean. And that when you put your frying pans in an electric oven and you put it on cleaning, in an hour it was down to bare metal.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I did not quite as well as you. I got 4 of them for a little less than 20. I don't know exactly how much less, but a little bit less than 20 because it was a package deal. They were $5 a piece for 4 of them, but then he reduced the price on the whole lot. So, and these are all made in USA, and I was really excited about it. And so they were probably, excuse me?
Those were Lodge then?
No, they, well, if Lodge is marked Lodge, yeah, then they were, but they were unmarked. But they did say, the size. They said made in USA, so they weren't Chinese. They were old. They were, from probably the 30s or 40s.
Oh yeah, okay.
Maybe earlier than that. And they were probably as grungy as the ones that you bought, and and I don't know if they had roach eggs on them or not, but
Well, that's the problem. They literally, that you might think that's a joke, but what happens is you get the food buildup on these frying pans on cast iron, and depending where you are, you're going to pull in critters.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. But they didn't have roach eggs, but they were pretty crusty. And what I did was very similar to what you did, and we haven't talked about this at all. So this is being aired for the first time, non-rehearsed. I mean, not even discussion. We have an outdoor wood furnace, and it has a big firebox, and we heat our domestic hot water with it 24/7, all year long, and we heat our house with it in the winter as well. And so I just took those pans and put them in the wood stove, and they got buried in ash, for longer than I'd like. And I took them out a couple days ago and hosed them off after they cooled, and they look brand new. Literally, They look brand new. So all of that crud and all that stuff it's sterilized off, and I have them in the kitchen. I washed them off in the sink after I got all the wood ash off them outside, and I'm going to oil them and season them, and they'll probably last several lifetimes.
Oh,
so
definitely.
Why would anybody not want to buy a lifetime or 2 or 3 cast iron pan for $5? It makes no sense to me.
Well, here's the problem. This is it. I've been in business. My company, Survival Enterprises, we figured it out 32 years. Continuous business, 32 years. I've been a survivalist, prepper, whatever, since I was, I don't know, a year old.
Sure.
So it's not like anything new to me. So it's astounding when somebody doesn't do something that's pro-survival. I mean, it's like my jaw drops and I go, why the hell did you just stick your head in a lion's mouth? Don't you know it's going to bite they're going to bite your head off? Really? I didn't know that. It's ignorance is what it is.
When I was in Virginia, I went into a family-operated hardware store. And they were closing the store. And so I called them up, and they said, well, come on over. And they opened the store for me, and my wife and I were the only ones in this hardware store. And the man said, well, everything is for sale. And typically you can take whatever the price is, 50% off. So we'll give you 50% off, which was great because I could buy anything I wanted in the hardware store for 50% off. And I said, what about these bins? And they had PFC brand bins for hardware, nuts and bolts and screws and washers and fasteners and every kind of, I mean, this was probably 20 feet long.
Was it the old oak ones?
No, these are plastic drawers, pull-out drawers. And every kind of fastener you could think of, some stainless steel, some, all the different grades of bolts and metric. I mean, it was a hardware store's fastener selection, the whole aisle. And I said, well, are these, is all of this for sale? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what do you want for all of this? He said, $1,100. Well, $1,100, I think I got over 100 1-foot by 1-foot cubes of these plastic drawers, and they all snap together, and they're heavy duty. They're not something that you would find at Lowe's. I mean, these are industrial quality. It's industrial quality shelving. They all lock together, and they were filled with hardware. So I bought literally a lifetime supply of brand new, unrusted nuts, bolts, screws. I mean, springs, everything you could think of.
And separated already.
Yeah. It was so heavy. It was so heavy that it took several truckloads, 3/4 ton trucks.
You got your money's worth of scrap weight.
Yeah. Now I didn't negotiate. I just said, okay, we'll put that on the.
That's because you knew it was worth it.
Yeah, I even bought a key making machine. We'll talk about that when we get back. We'll be right back. Kurt Wilson, ArmchairSurvivalist.com. The Armchair Survivalist is with us, Kurt Wilson. So, Kurt, I bought this along with these other things, the thousands of feet of wire, and the nuts and bolts, and I bought the whole aisle. And then this key making machine was there on the counter, and I said, is that for sale? And he said, yeah, like $125 with it, and it had the rotating display filled with keys, and then he had a whole bucket of other keys. So I probably got thousands of keys. Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Schlage, Master Lock, Kwikset, vintage cars from the.
And you're talking about
50s,
the manual
60s.
key, the key machine that has two sets of grinders at the same time.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my! You got no idea how much that stuff is worth. I have a friend that bought one.
I thought, I've got some old cars, and I can make my Chevy keys, and pretty soon we're not going to have keys. We're just going to have this chip implanted in our arms, and well, not we, they, and but I'm still going to have my old car, so I probably ought to.
Vince, just to interject there, I do a lot of research, and I get briefings from the Department of Homeland Security, unbeknownst to them. There is a new technology that you don't have to worry about the chip anymore. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that law enforcement worldwide is taking DNA samples from every single person they can get their hands on? Yeah,
they are. They're actually stopping people at traffic stops saying, okay, we need a sample of your DNA. Just open your mouth and we'll just get the swab. And people are doing it.
And there's a reason behind that. What they want is a massive database of DNA, because your DNA can now be used to unlock things and to activate electronics. All you have to do is get any part of your body near something. Once your DNA is programmed into a lock, like a specialized door lock, you don't have to have a card. You just put your hand against it, and it reads your DNA off of your skin. So your DNA will start your car. You'll be able to program your vehicle for the only 3 people in your family, and only those 3 people can start the vehicle. And they don't have to puncture your skin, just come close to it. So it's going to be, you are going to be the mark of the beast.
Very, very interesting. And some people may think this is great. On the other hand, if they've got a sample of your DNA, they can place you at a crime they want you to have allegedly committed, right?
Exactly.
They can build a case, and you can say, well, I wasn't even in that state ever. And they can place you at the scene. I'm sure they can edit video. They can fabricate video. They can have you walking into the crime scene and having your DNA, and it's 100% conclusive to the jury that, yes, you did this. And you weren't even there.
There's no question about it. You've seen the videos of that are CGI created, and you will swear they're you walking around. They're just, I've seen these, and it's so scary, and that's what they use. I mean, you see a guy who says, I was never even in that country. How can you claim I murdered that woman? And he goes to jail for life because of that. And it's because it was purely fabricated.
Well, in 1993, I was at the State Fair in Virginia for 11 days. And down my class was exhibiting their computer technology at the State Fair at the request of the Department of Education. And the state police were, in the same pavilion. And I went over there, and they had this computer system, and they said that they could predict what someone would look like in the future. So I sat down, and they aged me, 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the future, and they literally were able to do that back then. And they also had several screens, so that if they keyed in your license number from a patrol car, the screens that they could bring up would, just from your license tag number or your social security number or your name, they had at least 3 pages of information on most people, at least 3 pages. Mm-hmm. So if you were stopped, they knew if you had a CCW permit or not. I mean, on page 1. So they knew whether you were probably armed or not right then and there. So there's a lot of information. That was in 93. So a lot has happened since then. And
it's all been downhill, let me tell you.
Yeah. And I really don't like it. And whenever I use my credit card that has the chip in it, it takes me a long time to get that thing to work. And I hold up everybody because I just don't understand. Does it go in this way, upside down, right side up? It says don't remove it. Oh, geez.
Sorry.
We'll be right back. Plus, a quick announcement. October 1 and 2, there's a Survival and Preparedness Expo. It's at the KCI Expo Center, Kansas City, Missouri. It's a link on the website. So who's going to be there from USA Prepares? Well, Rick Miller, Matt Stein, Storm and Norman Cantwell, Craig Douglas, Jim Stewart will be representing Longevity. I'll be there. And many of us will be speaking in seminars. So that's October 1 and 2 at the KCI Expo Center, Kansas City, Missouri. And then also, if you're interested in topping up your firearms supplies, getting parts, ammo, accessories, maybe getting some knowledge from those behind the counter, September 24th and 25th, Gray, Tennessee, Germantown, Tennessee, Conyers, Georgia. That's the RK Gun Shows. That's Gray, Tennessee, Germantown, Tennessee, Conyers, Georgia, and that's September 24th and 5th. Kurt Wilson's with us. And Kurt, I got a call in the middle of the night. Actually, I got several calls in the middle of the night from someone who had a problem with a refrigerator freezer. The compressor stopped, water was leaking on the floor, and they wanted to know what to do. So I said, well, kind of late for that. So we went through the diagnosis. Crawl on the floor, look under the refrigerator freezer. Is the compressor warm? Is it blowing out hot air, cool air? Well, it's blowing out cool air. I said, well, that's not a good sign. How about inside? Are the fans working? Yeah, the fans are working. Okay. So it's probably the compressor's not starting. And I said, well, in the morning, you can go to a appliance repair store and get what's called a hard start kit. HARD space start space kit. And for around $20 or less, you can get this kit. You can wire it in with 3 wires, and your compressor will probably start, and you won't have to do anything other than, roll the refrigerator freezer out, get behind it, and do this. I said, and the person said, well, what about, going to Lowe's or Home Depot or something? I said, well, generally, they've got plenty of items on the sales floor, but they don't have an inventory. They will take your order and they'll deliver it on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever the day happens to be. But generally speaking, they don't have them in stock. If you want one off the floor, you'll have to get it from a small appliance place. But how about Craigslist? So I got on Craigslist and I found some in that neighborhood where I used a refrigerator freezer, nice condition, $200, and I suggested getting a vertical freezer. Vertical because there were space considerations rather than a chest type freezer. But the most important part of this is I think most of us ought to have a spare freezer. What do you think?
I have 2 of them. I have a chest and an upright. Mm-hmm. And I would rather use the chest because I was in the seafood business for 5 years, and all of our seafood was kept frozen, and we kept it in chest freezers because cold air falls, basically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When you open a chest freezer, you only let out a little bit of the cold. When you open an upright, it all falls out, basically.
Right. You can see it. You can actually see it.
Yeah, and by the way, you're talking about a hard start kit. I've had freezer problems before, so what I would do, being cheap and from the old school, I'd turn it off until it got to room temperature, and then I had this big rubber mallet, and I'd bang the hell out of the compressor, plug it back in, and it would work. Usually what happens is it gets a blockage inside of the compressor that stops the freon or the coolant from moving. So it stops and it won't do anything right. So in the old school, you just beat the crap out of it and hope the bubble pops. And if not, you go get it. You can buy a new starter, or you can go buy a hard start kit, or you just make a smoker out of it.
Right. Well, the 2 points here. One, that's a really good point about the rubber mallet. So you all need a rubber mallet. And where can you get those? Well, the last time I bought a rubber mallet, it was at a flea market, and it was $1. And it was back, 25 years ago. I still have it. Used it yesterday, and it still works. It's got a little bit of the rubber mallet part missing, the rubber part. Over the years, little flakes come off it. But it's still the same one. And so you need a rubber mallet, and you also need a really good hammer. And boy, hammers have really come down in price. The ones that I like best are Estwing. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And I've had the same Estwing hammers for, 30 years now.
Hammer? You say a hammer?
No, I have a drawer full of hammers.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
I have everything from a 2-pound framing hammer. I have 2 of those, down to the Estwing, down to even all the way down to tacking hammers. Mm-hmm. And I bought my framing hammer, cost me $40.
Yeah. And
that was in the 70s. $40. Now you can buy them from China for like $9.99 at Harbor Freight.
You can go to Harbor Freight on with their discount coupons, and you can get them for $2.99. A claw hammer, straight or curved claw, $2.99, 16-ounce hammer. And it's okay. I mean, it's not an Estwing. It's a fiberglass handle. However, I keep them in the cars. I bought one for everybody. I don't like buying Christmas presents, and I don't like buying birthday presents. However, I buy presents that when I think someone needs it, that's when they get it, regardless of the day.
That's smart. That's what we do. We do the same thing.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we had a little birthday celebration here recently, and the person whose birthday it was did not get any presents. And I said, I reiterated to the family, oh, by the way, this is how I feel about Christmas presents and birthday presents. But so Well, what I decided to do was get all of the people in our family who have refrigerators in houses. I got them all hard start kits because I did.
So here's an 8-year-old kid with a hard start kit. Thanks,
yeah.
Uncle.
Yeah, well, and the reason is because just what happened. I had one here as a spare, and I needed one to get me through one of those situations where we had a freezer quit, and it was a 22 cubic foot freezer that I bought used. Put the hard start kit in it, and it's up and running, and it has been for probably a couple of years now. And I bought 2 identical freezers because a 22 cubic foot. It's hard to find a 22 cubic foot freezer. I mean, you can get 19 and 17 and 15, but 22 is kind of hard. So if you have a jam-packed 22 and you want to transfer it to another freezer, it's hard to get one that's that size. So I have 2 of them, just like you. It's amazing the things that we have decided independently that we need to do.
It's because Vince, this is important for people to understand. There are, I would say, 75% of the population simply rides life's tailcoat. That's all they do. Yeah. They can't put 2 and 2 together. They don't understand the law of cause and effect. And the rest, the 25% of us actually pay attention and use logic. I have a cartoon that I got when I was 10 years old. It came out of a funny paper in San Francisco, and it says the prerequisite to playing the game of life is being there. You get that?
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing I learned my whole life. Ignorance kills people. Ignorance causes so much monetary suffering. You don't know. We were talking about this before the show. You don't know how to change a spare tire in your car. Guess what you have to do? You either have to call somebody to come and do it for you, or pay somebody to do it, or buy an insurance policy so that somebody else can come over and change your spare tire when, well, good Lord, it's just common sense how to change it. Federal law says every vehicle sold in the United States, new or on a lot, has to have a jack and a spare tire. That's law. And people don't know that. I stopped it alongside the road, and there's a woman in a MGB GT. Love the car. It's flat tire. The spare tire is on the trunk, if you remember some of the... Oh,
sure. Absolutely.
Okay. It's on the trunk. The jacks are under the hood. The jack and the bar is under the hood. And she's standing there in a micro mini skirt and a low-cut blouse, just looking very sexy. And she's waiting for somebody to stop and help her because she has no clue what to do herself. So my wife tells me, you better stop. So I stop, and I thank her for telling me to stop. And I tell the girl, I said, what are you doing just standing here? Can't you change the tire? She goes, honey, if I even move, there'll be more showing than a full moon on harvest night. So I changed her tire, and her and my wife talked a bunch. And now here's the funny part. She's from Tennessee, and she said I could change that tire faster than you can, but I'm on the way to a job interview right now, and I don't intend to get my fingers dirty. But people need to know the simple things. People need to know there is cause and effect. If you walk up to 4 hoods and you say to them, I can take you guys easy, you got to know you're going to get your butt kicked. And if you don't pay your bills, you've got to know that there's repercussions to that. Simple things. If all you do is lay around like a sloven pig, drink alcohol, smoke dope, watch TV, or play with your cell phone and get welfare, you got to know that if the Schumer hits the fan, you're the first person going down the toilet. Did you read the article that 55% of the people in the United States, American citizens, really truly believe that if something happens, the government's there to help them?
I've read several articles that are like that. I also read articles that about those in England. More than half of the people in England cannot hang a shelf on a wall. They don't know how to do it.
Oh,
they don't know how to use a level and a hammer and a wall anchor or a sheetrock anchor or a molly.
I have listeners in England that think that's astounding. We can talk about that another time.
All right, we'll be right back. Kurt Wilson's with us, armchairsurvivalist.com. And class, I think you ought to have a spare fan belt, a serpentine belt in your car with the tool to install it and change it and practice before you have to. We'll be right back. Kurt Wilson's with us. Hey, Kurt, were you going to say something about one of your listeners overseas?
Yeah, he's people have to understand that England, in fact, the whole UK is a socialist country. It's true. It's look it up in the dictionary. That's what socialism is. And they're not citizens; they're subjects. So they are under the control of their sovereign lord and queen or king or what have you. And that's how they act. It's a given that they're going to be grown up, 100% taken care of by the government, and get their benefits. It's their benefits. Their benefits. This is a given. Well, this guy doesn't believe in that, and he lives in a cottage in the woods, and he does everything on his own, and he refuses any assistance from people. And he has spent his whole life learning what you and I know, and he finds it astounding when he goes into town, and he asks for something, like you said, hanging shelves. He goes into town to the hardware store and says, "I need some molly screws. I need a level. I need a little bubble level." And the clerk in the hardware store stares at him like, "What? What are you? What? I don't. I think that's on aisle 5." They don't even know what they're selling. They don't even know what it is. So, yeah, I think it's funny that I see that. And as an aside to that, I've been interviewed over 30 times by everyone from Good Morning America to the Associated Press to French and Italian newspapers and radio shows. They don't understand the concept of survivalism. In Europe and the EU, it doesn't exist. That word doesn't exist. It only exists in America. Mm-hmm. So they come over here and they interview me and they want to know about, what is this survivalism stuff? I said, well, turn around and look outside. You see the glass there to the window? Yeah. Survivalism is knowing how to clean that and take care of it so it doesn't fall off the out of the brackets. What? No, it's not. Yes, it is. Survivalism is knowing how to take care of your shoes so they don't rot on your feet. Survivalism is knowing what you were saying, that if your fan belt comes off or breaks while you're out driving, you have the ability to replace it with the tools that you carry in your car and the spare fan belt. This is survivalism. They don't grasp it at all.
It's interesting you say that. I was looking at some of the things that I bought on eBay recently during the commercial break, and I saw that I bought 2 switches, two heavy-duty momentary contact switches. And I bought 2 of them, and there's a reason why I bought 2. Because our baler, our hay baler, it's a round baler, it bales about 1,000 pounds of hay. It works great, except it has this control box that has failed. And it has some electronic circuitry in it and some relays and so forth. And I was baling hay one day, and it just stopped working. I thought, oh man, I've got to fix this right away. What does John Deere want for this little tiny box? And it's like a box twice, it's like 2 packs of cigarettes in size. And it has this momentary contact switch that moves an actuator on the baler that moves the twine. So it moves the twine as the bale goes round and round and round. It just positions the twine so you have a spiral wrap of twine. Well, they want $548 for this box.
Oh,
and
good Lord.
Price fixed. Everywhere you go, eBay, wherever you go, it's $548. So I thought, well, I need to switch quickly. So we raced off to Radio Shack, and I bought 2 of them, 2 switches, and I rewired this control box, and it works fine. It has for years, and I thought, but you know what? That switch, that $5 switch, $4.99 switch, is is the difference between me being able to bale hay and not. So I bought 2 more of them.
Yep. That's it. If you have, I talked to a guy who came in the store yesterday. Our store is in Hayden, Idaho. And I talked to a guy who came in yesterday, and him and his wife, and they're in their late 60s, and they've been quote unquote prepping for the past 5 years. And I said, well, what about water? He goes, oh, I have one of the life straws. I think so. I got the water thing handled. I said, really? So we can talk about that on the flip side.
That's hysterical. Man, oh man. Is he going to shower with that thing? Oh boy. Kurt Wilson, armchairsurvivalist.com. We'll be right back after top of the hour news and commercial announcements. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Kurt Wilson's with us, armchair survivalist. And Kurt, if we want to listen to you, get some more of your advice, counsel, and wisdom, how can we best listen to you?
Well, I broadcast pretty much internationally, but you go to armchairsurvivalist.com, and it'll tell you how to listen to me. I broadcast over Scriptures for America Network, and believe me, that's a story unto itself. And I'm on Global Star 3 and Global Star 5 satellite feeds. I'm on shortwave. I have an app for my show. If you go to Google Play Store, I think it is, and just do a search for Survival Enterprises or The Armchair Survivalist, you can find my app. So those of you with a smartphone can poke me every week and listen to me live there. On armchairsurvivalist.com, I have my archives. On the left-hand side, you'll see the little nipper dog listening to the RCA Victor gramophone. You just go there, and you can download all my shows for the current year. And there's different ways. I don't know these things, how you set up your phone to do this or how to do that. My engineer handles all that stuff, so it's all there. Or you can go to the chat room at armchairsurvivalist.com and listen to me on the internet. So you can listen on the internet, you can listen on shortwave, you can listen on satellite. I've got 50 or 60 AM, FM, and micro stations worldwide that rebroadcast me. When I started my show decades ago, I gave carte blanche to anyone who wanted to replay my show, because I give you data just like you do, Vince. You never know when some little piece of information is going to pop out of our mouth that the person listening is going to go, oh crap, I didn't know that. Life would be so much easier if I knew that later, but before, now I know it. I can go fix this thing, or I can do this, or I won't ever do that again. So,
right.
So I said, you know what? Anywhere in the world, and I broadcast literally. Never mind the internet part. That's just so I can communicate with my engineer. I broadcast worldwide. People pick me up all over the world.
And you know what's interesting, Kurt? I get calls here at the farmhouse, and I'll say 2 things I'll ask during the phone call. When somebody calls it's brand new to calling us. I'll say, number 1, how can we make the broadcast better? That's one thing. And the other thing I might ask, and probably do, is how'd you hear of us? And where do you listen? And I get people telling me that they listen to us on radio stations I don't even know about.
I know. I got a guy calling me from Phoenix, Arizona. He goes, you're on every Sunday in this, whatever this station is. And I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, dude, you're losing money because they advertise.
Yeah, so you and I are doing the same thing. We don't charge. So anybody who wants to, this broadcast, I can pick it up. And Rod Gibson in the Carolinas picks up this broadcast and puts it on YouTube every day, and has for years. So our thanks go out to Ron Gibson for doing
that's
that.
Nice of him. I had a guy put me on YouTube, and then I would do it for about a year, and it gets so overwhelming that I don't do it anymore. And every day I get some new person subscribed to my YouTube channel, but I don't put my shows on it anymore. Because I'm not that technically advanced.
Well, you were talking about a man who came into your store, and he was a preparedness-minded person, and you were talking about, how well he's prepared. You're talking about this last hour, and you asked him about water. Like, what about water? And he said he's got a life straw.
And I just looked at him. I said, "Did you, by any chance, read any of the instructions that come with that?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Okay, the best case scenario is 200 gallons. Then you got to throw it away because all it is carbon block inside. It takes out the big chunks and chlorine and certain other things, and that's it. So you need either portable water filtration or you need a standalone water filtration, and that's the old." Been around since 1830. Those are the canisters that hold the ceramic filters in them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's some advertised on GCN. They're all over the world, but they've been around since 1830. Mm-hmm. And they're gravity feed. You need those if you're going to be stationary. If you're going to be traveling, you need something else with a higher quality, like a Sawyer, which uses microfiber technology instead of carbon block. And he's like, just what I said to you just now overwhelmed him. He's like, "Holy crap, Martha. I didn't even think about that." So she's like, "Buy this." And she's pointing over.
I'm wondering about how many gallons of water a person consumes a day. If they take a bath, it's at least 20 gallons there. Flushing the toilet 10 times a day or 5 times a day, it's 20, 30 gallons, minimum there. And then cooking and then cleaning and then it's probably hundreds of gallons a day by the time, we're done. If we actually measured how much water we really do consume, including the products that we buy that use water in the manufacture of them. So yeah, it's a big deal. It absolutely is. And you're absolutely right. Gravity feed is the way to go. And we use them here every day and have for years. But, there's so many people who think that they're prepared, but they have no idea where their water is going to come from. And some people say, you know what, I'll just catch it off the roof. That's like,
good Lord.
Bird poop is like the minimum of what you're going to get off your roof.
That's never mind the fact that a lot of states now are claiming that they own the rain. Yeah. And you're not allowed to have rain barrels. I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous. But the government's already came out and said that they are spraying lithium in the atmosphere to check the electronic wavelengths of the Earth and this and that. And chemtrails, there's so much crap in the air. And there's forest fires. I'm up in the Northwest. I'm in Idaho, North Idaho. There's forest fires. There's sandstorms. There's volcanic ash. There's so much crap in the air that the rain falls to your roof and then it washes off. I have a new roof, by the way. I put a new roof on the house. So you know what happens is that all of that gravel is washing off. Mm-hmm. So my gutters are full of garbage that I'm going to have to clean out before winter hits. And then you put it in a barrel and you think, I'll just pour that through my my Berkey or my ProPure or my Delta, whatever, and filter it out. I would maybe pour it in my garden, but that's about as far as I'd go.
Well, here's one thought about that. You're talking about the forest fires and these natural fires, and maybe some of them are man-made. But when they burn houses, they burn petrochemicals, they burn the insulation on wires, they burn the plastic, they burn the insecticides in the garage, they burn the cars, the plastic seats, the vinyl, the foam rubber, the plastic dashboards, all of that goes airborne and it comes down. So when you think about your roof with those granules on the composition roofs that hold all of that until the next rain, they capture it and hold it until the next rain, and then it mixes with the water. Think many times about before you're going to drink that. I mean, if you're dying of thirst, that's one thing. But if you're not dying of thirst, you've got time to prepare. And just like that hard start kit that we talked about, if you have one of those ready, you're ready. So being prepared, to me, is having what you need before you need it. That's all it is, having what you need before you need it. And I'm looking at some of the things that I wanted to share with you. So yesterday I was working on an old 17-year-old car, and it was showing signs of beginning to run hot. So the temperature gauge said, it was running a little hotter than it used to. So we have an automotive shop here, if you will, at the farm. with a rotary lift that puts a car up in the air. It's inside our house, in our garage. And so we have a, pretty much fully equipped shop, and I've been accumulating tools over the years. And so we're working on this car, our sons and I, the two boys. And I looked at the radiator and I saw, a lot of bugs in this radiator. That's one thing. So the bugs are preventing the airflow.
You mean in the fins?
Yeah.
Okay, not in the radiator. Yeah. So you took the cap off.
It's stuck in the fins of the radiator. That's what I should have said. Yes. Plugging up the fins that would exchange the heat from the radiator to the air. So it was plugging that up, not completely, but enough so that it was a problem. So that's something that we may not be paying attention to. And then cars with air conditioning have a condenser in front of the radiator. So you may look and wash off the condenser, but you may have some dirt accumulated between the condenser and the radiator.
I've seen those clogged. I've seen those totally clogged.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
And one thing you don't want to do, and I did this by accident. I'm thinking this when I was a kid, and I had a 57 Chevy with a 327 in it, and I just replaced the radiator, and then I drove from East Coast to the West Coast, and at that time the 50-cent car wash was a true 50-cent car wash.
Right.
Where you do it yourself. So I figured I'm just going to spray all the bugs off. This pressure was so intense, I start spraying the front of my radiator, and the fin started bending in.
Correct. Copper radiators, yes.
Yeah, you've got to be extremely careful. I even, where I am at now, what I do is I have a brass brush, and I lightly brush all that crap off. But people don't understand.
We did yesterday.
People don't understand. Sorry to interject here, but there's so many reasons that your engine can run hot, and a lot of it is just common sense. What cools it? Air and water. So you do a diagnostic, and you look at the air. Was something stopping the air from going in? Yeah, and that was the garbage between the transmission cooler and the radiator, or the air conditioner cooler and the radiator. Yeah, it gets clogged up, literally.
And you can use, what I did was I used a garden hose. But first, I lightly wet the radiator and the air conditioning condenser and the transmission cooler. And then once it was wet, then I sprayed it. I took a glass cleaner spray bottle and I put a light mixture of dishwashing detergent and water in there, sprayed it down to act as a surface tension agent to loosen the surface tension. And then 20 minutes later, I washed down the radiator with a light garden hose. And it worked great. Then I'll tell you about the other problem. Class. Kurt Wilson's with us, armchairsurvivalist.com. So, Kurt, what happened, as I looked at this vehicle that was, showing tendencies to begin running hotter than before, I stood back when the engine was running and I looked at the fan clutch. The fan is attached to a shaft and it spins with a serpentine belt, and it wasn't spinning as fast as I thought. So I shut the engine off and I spun the fan by hand. Oh, by the way, when you do this, I take the key out of the ignition and put it in my pocket. That way, no one's going to go in the vehicle when when I've got my head down there under the hood and accidentally start it. So I take the key out and put it in my pocket. That way, accidents are less likely to happen. And I spun the fan and it spun too easily. Okay, the fan clutch is designed to engage when the radiator's hot, and so that when the fan is not needed, the fan is not spinning as much, and it saves horsepower and gasoline. But this one was showing signs of not spinning too easily. So I thought about it, and I got on the internet, and I looked, and I can buy a fan clutch for $200 OEM. It's on an old Mercedes ML320. I found one for $200 from Germany, and I thought that's ridiculous. I mean, it's a lot of money for a fan clutch. I thought they should be about $30 or $40. And then I found some Chinese ones probably that are around $40 and maybe even a little bit less. And I thought, why can't I fix this? Why can't I fix this fan clutch myself? I've never taken one apart. Did a little bit of research, and I found that I can buy the fluid that seems to very slowly leak out of these things They're generally designed to last around 50, 60, 100,000 miles. Well, this thing has 250,000 miles on it. So the fluid is probably partially gone. So for $6, I can get the silicone fluid and put this fluid into the fan clutch. Just drill a hole in it, put a small self-tapping screw in there, and seal up the hole after I put the fluid in it. And $6 later, I'm done. And it should work just fine. I'll still have the factory Mercedes fan clutch. So there are lots of ways that we can skin this cat. There are lots of ways that we can save money. And when you talked about those nuggets of information, I think that might be one of them. That,
of course. I didn't know that.
Okay. Well,
what I normally do is throw a fan clutch away and just have a direct dry fan on there.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. But in this case, for $6, I can have original equipment design working again with getting the fluid. And where do you find these things out? Well, you just do a search on the internet, and then led me to a YouTube video and this guy and a thread from an automotive site. And a guy was working on a Toyota one, which is a little bit different.
I'm looking at it right now. Silicone oil refill.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And so I'm going to do that as soon as I get the fluid, and it'll be great. Another thing that I've noticed, all my battery chargers except one have failed, all of them. And that's a big problem for me. I'm down to just one battery charger that's a 1 amp, and it's nowhere near enough because we have a lot of batteries here at the farm. We have like a little track loader. It's like a bulldozer, and maybe it isn't so little. It's 25,000 pounds. It takes 2 batteries. So if we don't use that, for the month, the batteries will be dead. So we got to charge those. So that's one battery charger, and then we have a couple tractors that have 2 batteries each, diesel tractors. So that's 2 more batteries. Then we have diesel trucks that have 2 batteries each. So we probably have 30 lead acid batteries in equipment at a minimum. And they go dead after 30 days if you don't keep them topped off. And in the wintertime, if they're dead, they'll freeze and they'll be destroyed. So you've got to keep them charged. So we have a bunch of chargers. And I just counted that we've lost 4 of the Xantrax True Charge 10s, 4 of them. And it's really hard to fix them because they cost more to fix than it would cost to replace one. And
let me ask you, why are they going bad?
Well, lightning.
Oh,
if we hook them up, even though we have surge protection on the whole house, we have surge protection on each sub-panel, of which there are 6 or 7 sub-panels in the house. Even though we use surge protection, they still seem to get blown up when there's lightning. And we've taken some very close direct hits. I mean, trees on our farm near the farmhouse have been literally huge, 150-year-old trees have been taken out by lightning. So we've taken some really strong direct hits. They've blown up these chargers, and we leave them on, for a couple days at a time because they're automatic. The bottom line is battery chargers have gotten really expensive. I paid $165 on one and lost. $165 on a used battery charger.
I got some ideas for you when you come back.
Kurt Wilson's with us, and you can get to his website, armchairsurvivalist.com. Kurt, we were talking about battery chargers, and I said that so many of ours have blown up due to lightning, and that's a lot of it's because we use them all the time to keep our equipment charged, and I believe that one of the problems that we're seeing is because when lightning strikes buildings, trees, the lightning dissipates into the ground. And I believe that some of the lightning comes up through the ground, connects to the ground wires that are connected to a ground rod or ground rods in the ground at our electrical service panels, and then come up and take out some of our equipment that way. And I believe that's what's happening, because I know that in Virginia, we had one of our customers had a network, and they were telling us that when I was servicing the network that they ran underground network cable between their outbuilding and their house, and lightning struck across the road and took out the lightning hit the ground and blew up both sides of the network. that were attached to the underground wiring. And it even killed the dog in the backyard who was, walking around the backyard. So lightning didn't strike the dog, but it struck across the street, and the lightning dissipated into the ground and killed the dog and the network. So those are some of my thoughts. What are your thoughts on battery charges blowing?
Well, have you tried surge protectors?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And they just blow right through the surge protector. What you're getting hit with is an EMP. That's what happens when lightning hits, and you have all kinds of protection. You have the lightning rods. You have everything grounded properly.
Sure.
Except when lightning hits, and it doesn't even hit the lightning rod. Everything fries. That's what an electromagnetic pulse is.
Mm-hmm. I have an example here at the farmhouse of what I would consider one of the best surge protection devices available, made by APC, American Power Conversion. And this lightning hit, and this surge protection switch literally burned up on the inside and started burning up on the outside, and actually burned the surface of the desk, the wooden desk that it was sitting on. Didn't cause a house fire, but the lightning was that strong, and it turned this surge protection device, the finest I think you can get, into a crispy critter. So lightning is really, really powerful stuff.
Oh yeah. Now there are ways. We don't have that much to worry about up here in North Idaho, but with lightning, we get lightning storm. We had lightning storm the other night, which is not normal. I had picture a thunder peal that lasts 15 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was a lightning strike. The bolt of lightning was almost 200 miles long. So there's some weird things happening here, Earthwise. But what we used to do, I had a friend that had a business in Sacramento, California, and he would buy old batteries and he would rebuild them and fix them up and sell them to people. Sacramento gets a lot of lightning, or it used to, like 50 years ago. But what he did was he put everything well off the ground. He never put anything on the ground in any way, shape, or form. He had thick wood countertops, and then he would have the batteries on a 2x12 on top of that countertop. And he would have, during the winter months, because he also had a farm up there, he would pull all of his batteries, pull them all. And he would put them all up on this shelf, and he would have a trickle charger running on them the whole winter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
that makes sense. And
that was his thing. He said, you have to pull them. Unless you want to have a battery charger for every single unit, you pull them all, you put them in series. You know how to do that, right?
In parallel, probably.
Parallel, yeah. And then hook a trickle charger to it and check it every once in a while to make sure that they didn't have computer design ones like they do now. Right. Mm-hmm. So he'd have to check it every few days to make sure all the water is set up right. But that's how he saved his batteries. He was really anal about it. He never lost any battery chargers. He had commercial ones too.
Well, they used to make them with vacuum tubes, and so I've been looking on Craigslist for the old style battery chargers, the ones that actually have two wheels and a handle, and maybe 150 amps, 120 amps, something like that. And so I'm thinking about going backwards. I'm also thinking about building a battery charger. We've got lots of transformers lying around here, and full wave rectifiers, and I can certainly build a battery charger, but I want to have it at a specific voltage. I know the voltage, so I can make that happen. As a matter of fact,
we have up here. We have a lot of people that live up in the woods. They're off the grid, and what they do is like one of my guys uses a 12-volt water pump to pull water out of his well. He has a standalone solar panel for that exact system, and then he has a fans for his trailer. These are specialized fans that move the heat and the coolness all through the trailer. He has another standalone solar panel system for that. And then he has an entertainment center, and he has another standalone solar system for that. And each of them are going to one of those Costco deep cycle batteries.
Right.
So, you can always do that kind of thing. Set up
Sure.
a solar panel charging system for your like we sell closeouts. Sometimes we get these interesting closeouts at Survival Enterprises, and I bought a whole bunch of portable solar panels. They fold up like a suitcase. If you ever go to Costco, you'll see Gold Zero there, and they sell these things for like $100. I bought a company going out of business, and I sell them $40 a piece, 2 for $75. And I have motorhome, and to keep my battery charged last year, because those damn things are too expensive, those batteries.
Right.
I just tossed one of these solar panels on the dash, and I wired it directly into the 12-volt system, and it kept the batteries fully charged for the whole winter. So there's many little options for that.
And can we get to that, your website from the armchairsurvival.com?
Yeah, armchairsurvivalist.com. Yeah, on the left-hand side, you'll see Survival Enterprise. You can click on that.
Okay. Kurt, I have this parts washer. I bought it, maybe 20, 25 years ago. And what it is, it's like a sink attached to a 30-gallon barrel or drum.
That sits on top. I know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it has an electric motor. You turn on the electric motor, and it pumps diesel fluid, and it circulates it so you can wash these parts off. And then the diesel fluid that goes down the drain actually ends up in this drum, and it recirculates the diesel fluid, and the diesel fluid becomes the washing solvent. Now, they recommend that you use a water-based solvent, but I don't know about that because I don't think it works that well. And all the parts that I want to wash.
That's a safety clean system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a master gunsmith for 25 years. I made my living cleaning guns, and that's what I used. But and it was water-based, but it was still hazardous material. Mm-hmm. But what you got is perfect.
Okay, so what I did was I tried to figure out how I could prevent contamination of this fluid that I want to recycle and reuse. And it kept getting dirtier and dirtier, and it started bring up particles of the dirt with it. So here's what I did. I added about a gallon of water, maybe a gallon and a half, maybe even 2 gallons of water to the diesel fluid or the diesel oil. And that I use as this parts washing fluid. And what happens is the diesel fluid floats on top of the water in this 30-gallon drum. I just poured it down the drain of this parts washer, the water. And the water holds all of the trash that gets removed from the parts that I'm washing.
Yeah, it drops through it.
Yeah. So for years now, the gunk lives at the bottom of the parts washer barrel in the water. The diesel fluid stays clean on top of it.
Don't you have a screen on your drain? Do you have a screen underneath that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
What I do is I try to wash off or scrape off anything that I don't want to go down the drain.
Okay,
But
you can contact Safety Clean, and they they'll sell you it's like a cup that goes underneath of your drain, and it's a screen, so it'll capture the big chunky stuff. And then what I also had was a fabric filter that went there with it also. Mm-hmm. So that's something you can check on.
I've done that. I've used a cotton sock as a fabric filter, and that worked until it gets plugged up. But what I found with using water, just having a layer of water on the bottom of this 30-gallon barrel, is that traps everything. And so I don't use this parts washer every minute of every day. I might use it a couple times a week, and that gives the particles that are in suspension in the diesel fluid time to settle down into the water where they get trapped.
How often do you change the water?
I've never had to change it.
Well, it's going to rust out the can.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. And what I may do this winter is empty that drum out and paint it with an epoxy type paint. Other than that, or buy another barrel, which I do have.
Yeah, I still got mine from my shop.
Concern.
When I was in California, I had that system, and I had to get a low-level toxic waste generation plant license to use it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What are your thoughts on compressors? I think just about everybody should have some kind of a compressor at their house.
Well, of course,
And,
you've got to be able to. You ever try and fill a tractor tire with a hand pump?
impossible.
Yeah, you're not
Impossible.
going to.
Hay season would be over by the time I was finished.
Yeah, same thing. Even doing on a bicycle is nuts. But yeah, should have a compressor, and they're so cheap now; it's ridiculous. And you even get them that are what's called oilless, little pancake compressors for anywhere from $60 to $100 over at Harbor Freight.
There you go. There you go. So consider getting a compressor for your garage class if you've got vehicles. You're going to have flat tires. That's just the way it is. And you might want to get a tire repair plug kit. You get them at the Chinese factory outlet, also known as Walmart to some people, for less than $10. So with a plug kit and a compressor, you can fix your own tires in many cases. We'll be right back. Kurt Wilson's with us, armchairsurvivalist.com. Kurt, I wanted to share with our class that there's some things that they probably wouldn't even think about doing that they probably can do. I got a call recently from the man who bought our house in Virginia. And he said, Vinny, and we're in great terms with him. I mean, we've been friends for 11 years. And he asked me how deep the well was, and I told him. And I told him that just before he bought the farm, we replaced the well pump. And I said, here's how we did it. And so if you think that you might need to replace the well pump at some point, because they may last 10, 15 years, a submersible well pump, here's how we did it. And I said, it took three of us, Mrs. Finelli and I and one of our children. I made a crank. I took a couple cinder blocks or concrete blocks, stood them up next to the well cap, took the well cap off, and there was this rope there. And I made this crank, and I just attached the rope to this crank and rod, and I just turned the crank. And it was just maybe a 4-inch diameter or 3-inch diameter piece of pipe with a crank handle fabricated on the end. And we turned it, and it lifted the well pipe and well pump out. And as it came out, one person supported the flexible black pipe. And as more of it came out, it was 2 people, and then it was 3 people. And then we finally got the well pump out, and it was, maybe 100 and something feet of well pipe. We replaced the pump, and then before that, we stored about 10 gallons of water with a little bit of dilute bleach in there, washed off the pipe as we put it back in with the pump in it, and reattached it. And, 2 hours later, we did the job by hand. So what did it cost us? Less than $200 to replace the well pump. I don't know what the cost would be if you had somebody do it, but I'll bet it's $1,000.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's a big thing up here. And it's a big thing anywhere. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a well pump or whether it's rebuilding your carburetor or putting injectors in your vehicle or fixing an ingrown toenail or whatever. It's a matter of using common sense, ingenuity, and willingness. That's the key, is the willingness to do what you're doing. And I know exactly what you did. You had these concrete blocks that have holes in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, turn them on the end, and you stuck your crank through the top one. I've done that before, and it's like it's so easy to evaluate that with your mind. And go, that would be a perfect way to do this, and then go and do it. My son has this saying on his wall. It says, "Common sense is now a superpower."
He's right. He's absolutely right. It's also rare. It's also as rare as a superpower.
And it's a flip of the switch of your mind. If you think a different way, and if you can imagine there's no such thing as crutches, then you won't be asking for them your whole life. That's how I was raised.
Yeah, and I thought about this, and I thought that the guy that they would send to do this has probably done it at least one time before, so he may know just a little bit more about doing this than I, but I think I can figure this out, and I had the willingness to take it apart and run a minimal risk of not having everything I needed. But what I did was I did the research and bought the well pump. Now that I've done it many, many years ago, I keep a spare well pump and all of the controls that I need here at the farm, so that if it were to happen right after the broadcast, I'd be out there replacing the well pump because I have all the parts that I need.
How deep's your well pump? How deep is it?
230. The one here is 238.
Okay. You ever hear of a thing called Simple Pump?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have one?
No, but I know the guy who founded that company.
Simplepump.com. I got no horse in the race here, but I'll tell you what. You get something like that in an emergency, you can pump water from over 300 feet up.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is the initiative and the starting power to just undertake that project. I suggest you do the research before. What would you like to minimize your maximum regret of? And make sure you know how to do that so that you will minimize that maximum regret. It's called Minimax Regret. Kurt Wilson, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your advice and counsel. I'm looking forward to having you back again and again and again to share your expertise with our broadcast classroom.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Thanks so much for coming in early. Class, above all, honesty,
talk to you later, Vince.
honesty and integrity. What happens next?